What is up, guys? It's Mike here, Dezaras Prime, and welcome to the first episode of Chapter 13. This is just a little mini-series where I will be discussing various elements of the 13 series, the machinima I create on GTA Online. We'll be talking about characters, story beats, backgrounds and stuff like that, all the good stuff that are important to making and telling a good story. Before we get to that, though, I would like to just, first of all, thank everybody who supported my channel in general, specifically the 13 stuff, because that's the topic today. I've had some really good feedback and some really good comments, and all the viewers, thank you. I do it for the viewers, mostly. I do it for myself as well, but I do it for the viewers as well. If there aren't people watching and giving feedback, then I'm not going to want to do it as much. To all my friends that helped me out with this, the team I've got, because it is a growing team. It's not so much a one-man team anymore. The family, like my brothers, are interested in this. Who'd have thought that driving cars and shooting bitches would bring family closer together? Thank you, all of you. It means the world to me, your support and everything. So I greatly appreciate that. And I hope to keep putting out good content going forward. Second thing I want to talk about before we get to the meat of the matter. The upload schedule. I just want to touch on that briefly. As you know, Season 1 is in its mid-season break. I'm working on the last 6 episodes, and I hope to get those out as soon as possible. I hope these little Chapter 13 episodes will fill the gap until I'm ready to upload the second half of Season 1. I mentioned on my Facebook page that Season 2 wouldn't launch until 2020 because I wanted to adopt a bit of a Westworld type approach in terms of the schedule, because Westworld, they upload their seasons every 2 years. They follow on pretty much straight from each other, or they have done thus far, but I want there to be... I need more time to make these as well as do my other stuff, because at the minute, the DCUO stuff, Darksavior, Cougar Man, all that stuff, and the Transformers, the soap stuff, they're on the back burner severely. And I tried recording some footage for the Cougar Man finale the other week, and I wasn't feeling it. And it's not just because I'm not fully immersed in DCUO anymore. It's also the fact that I find 13 more enjoyable and more fun to make. And that's where it comes into the whole, I mostly do it for the viewers and the fans, and sometimes I do it for myself because this is a hobby at the end of the day. I'm not looking to monetize or go pro or make this a job. My job pays well enough as it is. Is it the best job? No, but it pays well. This is a hobby for me. It's fun. And if I'm not having fun, if I don't want to do it, then I won't do it. The DCUO stuff and the Transformers the soap stuff, they're coming, but to the people that only watch that stuff, I'm sorry, but it's not coming yet, because priority number 1 is Season 1 of 13, but that's why I've kind of adopted this Westworld approach with my upload schedule for 13, because if there's no Season 2 next year, that gives me time to prioritise other things. The Barry Point stuff needs finishing in Transformers the Soap. Cougar Man's finale, Taylor and Taylor, Street Saviors, they all need wrapping up and bringing to their conclusions. I've got other DCUO stuff in the works. It's all coming. I'll keep saying that. It's just not coming yet. But hopefully, I can focus on those in 2019 and still work on 13 in the background, because there are still going to be 13 related videos and movie type things coming next year, just not Season 2. Unless I get a good enough amount of it done. Because I know I said 2020, but the 10th of September this year was the first anniversary of the formation of Chapter 13 in real life. September 10th, 2019 would be the second anniversary. I'd love to debut Season 2 on that date, but don't hold me to that. If it isn't ready by then, if I don't feel like I'm ready to upload come the second anniversary, I won't. I'll wait until 2020. But yeah, all the stuff that I want to do, I still want to do it all. DCUO, Transformers the Soap, 13, but it's all a case of I'm doing what I enjoy doing at the minute. I'm doing what I want to do. And at the minute, that's 13. So let's chat about 13, shall we? And the subject of today's video is going to be one Roy Cedric Alexander Moss. Yes, that's his full name. I went on that Be a Minister thing on the game, on the website on the game, and I put middle names in for a laugh, and I went with Cedric Alexander. So where do I begin? Let's start with I guess to start with Moss, I'd have to start with the inspiration for the series. Like I said, September 10th, I formed Chapter 13 last year. September 8th was when I left the old crew, 10 minutes before my birthday. So yeah, I'll always remember the Chapter 13 formation because it falls a day after my birthday. I'd never really had the idea to make a series about this when I was with the old crew, because it was all pretty much just work. And it was only when I left and formed Chapter 13 and me and Wilf were doing our own thing on our own time, our own leisure. And I was thinking, I could actually make something of this. And I was trying to think of a way to do it without it being a facsimile of Sons of Anarchy or stuff like that. And one of those things was throwing in the noir elements and the character of Roy Moss. Now, the name Roy Moss comes from two IT crowd characters, Roy and Moss. It's really that simple. You'll see going forward with a few things that a lot of names are derived from the IT crowd. It's just sort of where we look to for inspiration for the names. A few inspirations for Moss and his themes and tones. Started a film noir version of Dezaras, the Dark Taylor and Taylor in the DCUO cinematic multiverse. And that's black and white, that's heavy like modern noir or contemporary noir, whatever you call it. And I just like, overcoats and, the suits and fedoras and things like that. I wanted to bring that in, but I didn't want it to seem too jarring because I couldn't act like it was the 30s or the 40s in modern day Los Santos. That wouldn't work. So I kind of portray Moss as a man born into the wrong era. I do that with the internal monologues and the jazz and saxophone piano music that plays during his scenes, and some of the cars he drives as well. A couple more inspirations were actually Whose Line Is It Anyway? There was a game on there that Colin Mockery and Ron Stiles would do called Narrate, which was they'd basically narrate a film noir scene with some bollocks scenario. And if you listen carefully, you'll know that the music from Narrate is actually in 13. And I believe I've used it in Taylor and Taylor as well. It's a good piece of film noir music to use. And obviously another inspiration for this was, especially I had this in mind when I was actually creating the Roy Moss character, LA Noire, which is a game I love. I really like playing that game, and I actually had Cole Phelps in mind when I was creating Roy at first. I changed it a bit because obviously Roy Moss and Cole Phelps look nothing like each other. The original Moss, when I first created him, did have dark hair. I changed it to blonde just to mix things up a little bit. But yeah, those are kind of like the things I went for with in terms of the inspiration for not just the series, but the Moss character in general. I'll go into more depth about the series and the inspirations for that and why it unfolds the way it does in a later video, but for now we'll just focus solely on the Moss character. His voice is almost Cougarman-like. It's not exactly Cougarman-like. I make it a little less gravelly and a bit more soft as I can go because I don't have a soft voice. But there's definitely a Cougarman inspiration in the way I portray Moss. Just not with all the perviness and the oh yeah and anything like that. I use the vocal beats as an inspiration, as a starting off point, so to speak. The clothes, again, that was something that I wanted to keep very 40s, if you will. The fedora, the shirt and tie, the jacket, that kind of thing, the slacks. But I didn't want him to look too polished, so I went for baggy slacks, and sometimes you'll see him with his shirt untucked, and little things like that, and he's got his beard, and he's also got a bit of weathering on the face. But yeah, that was what I went for with the clothing options, and I like to mix it up because there's something I can do in GTA that I can't really do in other series as much. I can, but it's a lot more cumbersome, and that's changed their outfits up every now and then. With Dezaras, if you watch Dark Savior, you'll always see him in the same outfit, except for the time season 1 it was a bit different, but for the most part it was always the same outfit with the exception of the Reluctant Alliance partnership with Flowgirl, Cougarman, always wearing the same outfit. But because these aren't superheroes and they aren't limited to a particular look or style, I can be a bit more flexible. That's why sometimes you'll see Dez and Scorn wear cuts, biker cuts. Other times you'll see them wear, jackets, different trousers. With Moss, it's the same. You see Moss and he's wearing a grey overcoat in one episode. Another episode he might be wearing a black overcoat with a different tie. He might just wear a simple suit. He might have a different coloured fedora, different glasses. It's one of those things that I really like to play around with. And the same goes for the vehicles as well. His main vehicle is the Penumbra, which I call the Tenetimber because I'm a weirdo like that. That's another IT crowd thing, by the way. What a simple car for him. He does have many other cars. You've seen him in already in plenty of other cars. The title sequence has him in the Yanis Elegy, which up until he hasn't used in series yet, but you'll see him use vintage cars as well, like the Monroe or the Z-Type. I think he used in Chapter 7 that's just released. So he does have a taste not only for the noir detective look and the attitude, but also for the vehicles and stuff as well. Like I said, I really want him to come across as a guy out of his time. He was born into the wrong era. I think I even have him mention that at one point. In a future script, obviously, because that bit hasn't been made yet. Okay, so moving on to his character and motivations. He is a low-key private investigator. He's said that before, but that is by design. He is intentionally low-key by his design, not mine. Well, clearly it's by both because I write the fucking thing, but by his own intention, he is a low-key private investigator. Because in Roy's mind, the more prolific he is, the more well-known he is. It's going to be harder for him to solve certain cases that may require a bit of an undercover touch or something like that. So he stays low-key and he tries to not draw attention to himself too much. But that's not to say he isn't a good investigator, because he is very intuitive, very insightful, and very observant. He can spot little things that no one else can. Like, for example, he noticed that the guy robbing the convenience store in Chapter 1 was the same guy at the construction site later on. He knew immediately that was Dezaras because it's in the eyes. He has great attention to detail, and he can use that to his advantage because he can spot things others can't. And that is, it's a good trait. He can know the area. He is very thorough and very detailed with his investigations. That's why it's taking 13 episodes to figure it out. But yeah, so he is low-key by choice, and when it comes to investigating Chapter 13, it is probably better for him to be low-key, because those guys, the club may be disbanded, but those guys are still probably going to be pottering around, and if they catch wind of this, then he'd be in trouble. His motivations, I can't go into yet. It is a personally assigned assignment. There is a reason for why he's investigating Chapter 13. There's two, actually. Can't really talk about either of them because that would spoil future episodes. So, yeah. Sorry about that. But they are decent enough reasons to investigate this, aside from just the curiosity of a motorcycle club who do bad things but only really do them to bad people. Obviously, Roy's a smoker and he likes to drink. I think in Chapter 6 we saw him eating a bit more healthily. He was having granola bars. But yeah, he's a smoker, he drinks. He's not an addict by any means, but I kind of feel like those would be his go-tos. The beer and the cigarettes would be what he would use to calm himself down or help him focus. In terms of his combat skills, well, we've only really seen him in a potential scenario in Chapter 2 during the Scooby-Doo scene outside Michael's Polito Bay home when he was getting chased by a neighbour with a gun and then he fell off a cliff. The falling off the cliff wasn't intentional. I'd done a rehearsal and found a way down safely, but I just completely bollocksed it up during the actual shooting of that, and he just fell off the cliff, and I was just like, I'm going to keep that. It's a nice, fun little moment. So yeah, his combat, he might not want to fight, he might not be any good at fighting, but he's resilient. If he could fall off a cliff and not die, or get seriously hurt. But he will try and avoid confrontation, again, because it would draw attention to himself if not. All in all, he is a very driven, very capable, very intelligent individual. And it might not come across like that all times. Like Chapter 3, when he goes into the strip club at the start, and he's like, maybe get a lap dance or two or three. God, I'm so lonely. That kind of thing. He is. I can make fun at certain little character elements of that, but I'd like to think I keep saying stuff like that, and I do this all the time with other characters as well, and other stories and shit like that I do. I'd like to think, I suspect, and I forget that I'm making this thing. I dictate what happens with most of the stuff. And so, yeah, Moss, I believe, would, be low-key socially as well. Because if he's low-key socially, it makes him easier to be low-key professionally. And as a result of that, he doesn't have many relationships, he doesn't have many friends or lovers. He may hang around with the strippers and get a few dances. He may know a couple of people that would probably be classed more as clients or contacts or sources than friends, but he doesn't really have that big a social circle, if any. He has a brother that we won't meet yet, but we'll meet later on down the line. I'm mentioning that now because there will be a deleted scene, or an extended scene, that will mention a brother, so I figured I'll just get that out there now. You won't see him yet. You will eventually, but just not yet. So yeah, there's not a lot to be known about Roy Moss in terms of, I think if somebody were to investigate Moss, they'd have the same kind of issues that Moss has investigating Chapter 13. I mean, Moss has uncovered a lot, but he hasn't uncovered everything, and he's still left wanting for answers. If someone was to investigate Moss, I think they would fall into the same trap because he doesn't have much to go on. He's an enigma himself. I've explained his character traits and personality and how he's a man born to the wrong generation, but in terms of keeping himself to himself, there's not really a lot of eyewitnesses or witness statements that can be used to build a case on Roy Moss. And I kind of like that, because giving him too much of a social circle would present story problems, because it would give other people an opportunity to find out more about him. If, for example, Chapter 13 discovered Moss was investigating them, they'd probably investigate in turn, and the less people Roy knows, the better for him, because the 13 guys wouldn't have much to use. So I feel like it's not just a necessary but an interesting story tool, because it helps keep this little bit of mystery around Roy at the same time. He's almost as enigmatic as Dezaras, he's almost as shrouded as Dezaras, and I kind of like that. Anyway, I think that for now covers all the basics on Roy Moss. Obviously, I'll go into more detail when I start doing the episode recaps, because I do plan on doing those as well. But I think for now, that pretty much covers all that there is to know about Roy Moss at this point. There will be more to uncover, and you will find out more about him, and he will go in directions you may not expect. But for now, that's it. And I just want to thank everyone once again for watching and for watching 13 or any of my stuff. It really does mean a lot to me, and I greatly appreciate it. But for now, this is Dezaras Prime signing off. You shall see me next time.